What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rusty Acres. Today we are continuing with the 122 revival series. I'm currently getting over a pretty nasty cold, so apologies for me slurring my words a little bit here. I am just coming up to the shed here so I can show you the rototiller that we're going to be unburying today. So to start, I need to climb over the sickle bar on the A. Try not to trip or break anything. We need to get past the A. Somehow get it by the backhoe. Although we could move these mower decks. Back up in the farthest back corner of the shed is our rototiller. There we go. Now that we're back here, she is still free. That's a really good sign. So today we're gonna get this rototiller, bring it out to the outside world, and get it hooked up to our 122. Now, one problem that we're going to encounter trying to get this out, like I said, we got to move our Farm A here. Our tire is completely soft. That tire should not be squishy like that, so we need to get some air into that tire. Alright, so now I'm going to get some air put into our A tire so this can get dragged out of here. If I can find my valve stub, there we go. Alright, now I'm going to get air put into our tire. Come on. My hose is all kinds of twisted right now. There we go. Come on. That's hard enough to get it moved out. Put this over here. Stay. Now let's get our jack lowered. Alright, now the weight's resting on the tire, now we can take it out. Our sediment bowl is leaking like crazy. That's all the way on. I would say let's go up here and try it. Neutral, choke, throttle, let's just send it. Nope. She won't start for us, and so now we gotta get a charger or a jumper up here. Everybody, so we're having way too much trouble getting the A to start and run on its own power. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the C, I think, we're gonna drag it out, get a rototiller, probably get that running off camera, put the A back in, and then we will properly resume the 122 series. here is our rototiller. It weighs about 4,000 pounds and is nailed to the floor. So I'm gonna see what I can do to move that and put it on our 122. So here we have the back of the Cub. We have a rototiller. I'll stand at this from the rototiller's perspective. So these top arms attach where that pin is for that little round bar. This seized thing, the top T part where my thumb is touching, that gets unscrewed. This gets put through that hole. Top gets screwed back on. So we're gonna have to free that up. And the bottom pieces, these they go down there where we still need to put in a bolt. So we're gonna go get a bolt and some tools to free that thing off, then we'll have a rototiller attached. All right, so after a lot of work moving the tiller around, we finally have it mounted to the tractor. So now we can take it down to the shop, find a belt, and tune everything up and test it. All right, everybody, so here's our setup down to the shop. I'm now going to do some light maintenance on the 122. We're gonna find a belt for our rototiller, check the oil on that, because that little gearbox on it, so we'll check that. And then we're gonna go get the whole setup and test. I'm sure in this handful of belts, there's bound to be a belt that's gonna fit on our rototiller. All right, so after a quick run to our shop, we have our belts. And coming home, I found these 2 gas cans on the side of the road next to a free sign, "Don't judge me." All right, so one other thing that we're gonna do, besides for putting our belt on, we are gonna go over our tractor, grease it, oil it, check over a few things. And one thing that we need to check, if I can pull up our hood here, is what our battery is doing. I'll show you what I mean. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna check if our battery charges, because you know that's kind of important. So I'm gonna get my meter set up here. Red for positive, black for negative. Turn on to 20 volt DC. Push it in nice. So ambient, we sit at 12.66 volts, which is acceptable for ambient sitting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the tractor, and then I'm going to see what kind of voltage we get. So here, I'm going to do my best. Position it maybe so you guys can see it. Actually, probably not. I'm going to do a test run to see how well we charge. So the highest voltage we reached was 14.64, which is really good. So whenever we are running this tractor, our battery is getting a good, strong, healthy charge, which is exactly what we want. So that test proved well. right, now that our 122 is over here, she has some dust on her from sitting in the barn, so I'm gonna get this thing washed off, get it nice and clean. We're gonna fix it up, and we're gonna give that tiller a test. All right, I just gave the tractor a quick wash. It's not gonna look too much different because there wasn't really too much dust on it, but it was just enough to make it look a little funky. So I just hosed it off real quick. So now we can go over work on it. I'm gonna grease up the front end of the tractor, top off the engine oil, and we're gonna work on that tiller a little bit because that tiller, it's missing a few small pieces. So I'm gonna put the few small pieces on that tiller. Then I think we're just gonna go and try it out. All right, so now I'm gonna grease our front end because I can't remember the last time this thing was greased. Is that taking grease or not? I can't quite tell. And that is not taking grease. Will this side be nice? Probably not. This will look even worse. There we go. Here's another snot. Ugh. Well, that one took grease. But this side, why not take grease? There we go. Wasn't holding it on there right. I'm gonna get a rag for that. There we go, front end greased. All right, so now in order to actually run this, we need to put a belt in it, and we need to figure out how to put oil into our gearbox. We will be doing that later. So what I have is I've removed the pin that holds this to the tractor, and there's a pin up here that's behind the pulley where my finger is. So I have those removed. Now this is gonna take a little bit of force, but you have to pull this, sneak the belt behind it. Of course, it's giving me a hard time. There we go. Now that our belt is snuck behind here, we now need to get it onto the pulley that's on the tractor. I'm gonna get it pretty much set on what? There we go. So belt goes like this, one side under it, one side over it. So it should look a little bit something like that. Now we can put it onto the tractor. Now we test it for a little bit, and it works. Now we put our piece back on. A pin goes up here, and a pin goes down here. Now our belt's on. All right, so one of the parts that we're missing, I'll point with this long bolt here. There's a nut that's right there that needs to be installed. So at first he gets a lock washer. I don't know what's happening on the other side of this bolt, so I'm going to be careful not to push it in. Now, a nut. Alright, the nut is threaded. And the threads are really rusty, so it's going to give me a lot of trouble. Sometimes for a rusty nut on threads, you want to take it off, put it back on. Now it just stops right there. I might be cross-threaded, but I doubt it because the first few threads feel really clean. Oh, I might be hitting my lock washer. No, okay, that's cross-threaded. Okay, now I can't get it threaded at all. There we go. Okay, now that's touching the lock washer, and lock washers take a lot of force to properly crimp down. So now I'm gonna get a wrench. Maybe the ratchet end of it will fit in here. Probably not, because this project hates me for some reason. And that's the wrong size of wrench, actually. All right, I have a 9/16, so I'm gonna try 9/16. There we go. Get my arm positioned up in here correctly. All right, there we go. Now the nut is being put on. If I keep my wrench on there. There really isn't any good way to do this. This is a really tight and hard spot to work in. We still have some more tight to go. And this is, I believe, connecting with the gearbox, so this needs to be good and tight. So I don't want to go skimpy on the tightness here. All right, that's good and tight. All right, we're gonna measure our bolt length here. That's not lined up properly. Let's see. Nope, that doesn't want to play nice. So I'm just gonna hold this to about where the head should be, and I'm gonna mark this with a Sharpie about where I want my threads to come out. Now the head of this bolt is gonna be in here, but... All right, I've got a mark of about how long that we're gonna need this. So now let's go cut this. Alright, so now for getting our bolt in, I need to line it up with this big screwdriver. Get that lined up straight, vice grips to hold it. This little ear here, if I can hold these properly. That's held in place. Now the bolt gets slid in with the head facing the inside. Now we can take that off. Finger on the back side so I don't actually push the bolt away. Lock washer in, nut on. Nope, I'm going the right way. Get our nut tightened up. About the amount of force that one finger can put down is as tight as you want these tiny little bolts. And that's all tightened. All right, so we got some bolts put on the tiller. We cleaned off our tractor, gave it some grease. We still need to put an air filter on it and give it a test run. So this episode is not done yet. It is going to get released later than I would like it to, but we need to figure out how to get oil into the gearboxes. Then we can test it, then use it properly. Everybody, we are now getting back to the rototiller project. It's been about a week since I wanted to release this episode. I wanted to release it on September 22nd. We didn't know how to oil the gearbox. I'll explain that in a second, why that hung us up so bad. And I've been busy with school and stuff, so we are going to be continuing the rototiller project today. So the way that the Series 1 rototiller gearbox is set up, these are sealed bearings. So a sealed bearing essentially means that oil cannot enter or exit that bearing. So these bearings have all the oil or grease that they need to operate properly. And inside this box, I believe there is a chain that connects here to here. So we do not actually have to put oil inside of here. Now, what some guys who have these do, they drill holes into this casing so that they can squirt oil onto the chain. We're not going to do that because we're not going to be running it that hard. Although what you do have to check oil-wise is the gearbox that's on the tractor. Not the rear end gearbox, but the gearbox that takes the belt, kind of puts it up into the 90-degree angle, and then brings it to the box on the tiller. So we are going to check our oil on the gearbox. Alright, so now to check our oil in the gearbox, first I'm going to wipe off the debris that surrounds the plug on the top. I'm not sure if this is the exact way to check the oil, but this is how we're going to do it to make sure that we don't burn up anything or damage any of our internal parts. So now that the area around it is clean, I can take my little Allen key wrench and start to loosen this. Now this plug is really small, so just gotta be careful I don't drop it. Get the fingers, plug's taken off. Plug has a little bit of sludge on it. That's weird. Now I'm gonna dip the Allen wrench in, and it can't fall in because it has a little hook on top. We're gonna dip it in and see if there's any oil in there. Alright, I think I'm hitting the top of a shaft. Huh. I think this is a grease gearbox. That's interesting. Yeah, this gearbox is full of grease. So that means we can use this gearbox because it's full of lubricant of some sort. I was expecting gear oil. Having grease in here is actually pretty interesting. So I'm gonna seal this thing back up, and we're gonna let the weather dry up a little bit outside, and we're gonna go and give it a test run. And then for properly tightening, I'm going to use my ratchet. Gotta make sure that we're going in the correct direction. I don't want to go too crazy tight, but I don't want to go too loose. So I'm just gonna make it nice and snug, about to what 2 fingers can put out in force. And that's about as tight as we're gonna want that plug. So now we're gonna let it dry up outside, and we're gonna go find a spot to test this thing. Alright guys, so the rotatory worked really well. I thought I was going to turn it on and it would drop a belt or a pulley or something. So you just saw me do that little patch behind me. It worked really good. I have something to show you. Afterwards, it dropped a belt and pulley. So this was the pulley that was on the underside of this gearbox here. It's about 50 Fahrenheit. This thing is warming my hand up. This thing was encountering a lot of friction. And if I show you the inside here, it has a bunch of gouge marks in it. That's supposed to be smooth machined, just like that little top bit there. So we certainly had a failure happen underneath that gearbox. But in episode 3, hopefully we're going to fix that, get a better pulley, replace this belt, because that belt's probably older than I am. So we're going to fix this whole situation up. But it did work really good. I'm really impressed with it. Alright everybody, and that looks like it's going to conclude episode 2. I want to thank you for watching. Sadly, it turned out a little weird, but it was a success. We just have to get a better pulley and belt, but that's not really a problem. We're going to do that in episode 3. Hopefully that does not get delayed by like a month and a half. I will see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.